Now, Al Capone's Scarface is known all over the world. One time I was in Stockholm, Sweden. I was touring a factory. I met these two old-time engineers. They were on a cigarette break. As soon as they introduced me, this is Jimmy from Chicago, they stood up, Al Capone. I said, no, 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 no. That shows what kind of reputation we had. But Capone got the nickname Scarface because years ago he insulted a woman. The woman's brother slashed him in the face, scarring him for life. Now here's Anthony Zizzo, Lil Toes. During the family secret trial, Mikey Marcello, when he visited his brother Jimmy Marcello in Milan, Michigan prison, they played those tapes. And the brothers talked in code. And when they referred to Zizzo, they called him Lil Toes. And a couple people in the courtroom, we thought that was funny. Years later, though, this guy gets in a beef. Jimmy wasn't there to protect him. He was supposed to go to a meeting. He never made that meeting. He's MIA. Here you got Anthony the Hatch. You can just imagine why they call him the Hatch. Chiramonte, I seen him at the Sam Carlisi trial. Joe Lopez, his attorney, told me the Hatch was much more difficult to handle than Frank Calabrese. And I couldn't believe it because Frank Calabrese was totally out of control. But later on, the Hatch got in the beef. He ended up getting killed by the other Calabrese. Here's Frank Tootsie Babe, Tootsie Caruso, retired successful businessman. His family's got deep, deep roots into the Chicago outfit. And during the family secret trial, Junior, Nick Calabrese, Frank Calabrese Sr., when they talked about Caruso, they would call him the curly girl. How's the curly girl doing? And Frank Sr. was trying to get a message to Caruso that his brother was sick, that his brother was an informant. The Zhivago Brothers had a lot of nicknames, a lot of aliases. Tony, the FBI agent, referred to him as the Ant, and some outfit guys would refer to him as the little guy. But during the family secret trial, Mikey and Jimmy Marcello, when they talked on tape, they would refer to them guys as the Zhivago Brothers, like the TV show. And then when Nick and Frank Calabrese referred to the Splotchos, they referred to them as 1 and 2. Great photo here of Anthony Ricardo, boss consigliere of Chicago outfit back in the day. They called him Big Tuna. This man loved the fish. And look at this trophy here, right? With fish, they can't get caught if they keep their mouth shut, right? But I like the nickname, the men that knew him, what they call him. They call him Joe or JB, Joe Batters, going back to when he used the baseball bat under Al Capone's regime. Sam MoMo Giancana, he got his nickname from his Italian name, Gilarmo. MoMo is short. When he got out of jail, Tony Ricardo gave him the reins of the Chicago outfit, told him to keep his head low. He did the exact opposite, kind of like a John Gotti, hanging out with all the Hollywood assholes. And eventually, they took him out. One of his friends killed him while he was cooking peppers and sausage, and the gun used was made by Ronnie Jarrett and Frank Calabrese. Dinosaur here, going back to the 42 gang, right under Ricardo, up there with Iupa, Giancana, Sam Teeth Battaglia. This guy eventually went legit and made a fortune in the import-export of produce. You'll see his trucks all over Chicagoland area today. His grandson is a professional hockey player. He got his nickname Teets because he would threaten to knock out people's teeth. These poor girls have no idea they're kissing the devil. Here's Mad Sam DeStefano, one of the craziest Chicago outfit guys. This guy actually killed his own brother, who was a drug addict. And then years later, the mob bosses had enough of his bullshit. So Tony Spilotro and his other brother killed him at his house. This guy used to torture people. And when FBI agents would visit him, he would offer them coffee and pee in the coffee before he served it to them. Joey Upa, boss of the Chicago outfit. During the golden years, he led with an iron fist. I can't think of any other mob boss in the country that clipped more guys than he did. He had nicknames like Doves. One time he got pinched. He had all these dead birds in the trunk of his car after a hunting trip. They called him Joey O'Brien. But I like what the neighborhood street guys called him, the old man. Joey Lombardo, Frank Calabrese referred to him as the old man. He gave the go-ahead to kill the Spilotros. Now here's Joe Ferriola, Joe Nagal, or Mr. Clean. They would call him Mr. Clean because he owned, even today, several successful laundromats throughout the city and the suburbs. He was boss to Chicago Outfit at the time, died of natural causes. This guy would have been a great boss for the outfit, great leadership that they needed. According to Nick Calabrese, he was one of the men that would participate in the killing of the Splatros and told him and Feckerata to cut up their gloves. Now here's another top brass Chicago outfit, a leader at one time, Sam Carlisi. They used to call him Black Sam. They called him Wings because he would fly and drive all over the country for Joey Aiuppa. I went to his trial in the early 1990s and during the Family Secrets trial. According to Nick Calabrese, he was one of the men that took part in the beatdown of the Splatros, and he also gun-butted Nicholas DeAndrea to death. Notorious hitman for the Chicago outfit, Frankie Schweiss. They call him the German because he loved German shepherds. He was part German. Also known as Hitler because he killed more people than Hitler did in World War II. He was part of the Danny Seifert hit. He was one of the masked gunmen that tried to handcuff Danny Seifert, but Danny Seifert was able to break free, only to get shotgun blasted by Joey Hansen and Tony Spilotro. John No-Nose DeFranzo, he got his nickname No-Nose. He did a score years ago on Michigan Avenue and broke through a glass window display and cut off part of his nose during the robbery, hence the nickname No-Nose. He was, as we all know, a boss of Chicago outfit, and according to Nick Calabrese, he was one of the men that took part at the Spilotro beatdown. He unloaded Michael Spilotro's gun, but he was never indicted. Now here you got Joey the Clown Lombardo, or they used to call him Lumpy, because he would put lumps on people's heads. But for the people that were fortunate to know Joey, he was always had a good joke with them, always had a couple one-liners, even during the Family Secrets trial. During breaks in the courtroom, he would crack jokes with the federal marshals, the reporters. He even had the judge and jury laughing at times. But unfortunately, Joey was convicted. There's an old friend of mine, Bobby Pinozzo. As we all know, he got pinched. Hopefully, he should be coming home in about 20 years if he makes it. But they used to call him Pinocchio. And Joey Lombardo gave him that nickname, Pinocchio, because when he was younger, he was kind of like the lookout when these guys would do some scores. And Joey loved the way Bobby would lie and con and how he was able to bullshit people, giving him the name Pinocchio. Here's Ronnie Jarrett. They used to call him the little guy. Also Pancho. He was a close associate of the 26th Street crew. He was one of the men that lured that low-life burglar John Mendel to his mother-in-law's garage, where he was jumped by Frank Calabrese, Nick Calabrese, strangled, and they cut his throat ear to ear. Ronnie Jarrett was eventually killed right in the neighborhood by the other Calabrese. Now, this guy, John Feckerata, one of the best wheelmen in Chicago, he was part of the Danny Seifert hit. And if it wasn't for his driving capabilities, that crew would have got caught that day. But anyways, John Stoop, Big Stoop was his nickname. He was constantly fucking up. And eventually, he botched the Spilotro burial after participating in the beatdown. The bosses had enough, and they chose Nick Calabrese, his best friend, to kill him. Now here we got Louis Marinos. They nicknamed him Tomatoes. He was in the produce business, made a fortune. According to Nick Calabrese, he was one of the men that took part in the Spilotro beatdown at that house in Bensonville. And according to that low-life scumbag, Chomo B.J. Jehoda, he was one of the men in the kitchen along with Bobby Salerno and Rocky and Felice that killed the bookie Hal Smith. This is Louis Marino. Here's Mike Sarno, the large guy. I actually feel sorry for this guy. He's in prison right now. He got sentenced to 30 years for a bombing in Berwyn. I went to his trial. He was on trial with a high-ranking outlaw motorcycle gang and some other outfit associates. Mike and his crew blew up a competitor in Berwyn. That's automatic 30 years, and hopefully Mike can come home one day. Harry Elliman, notorious heavyweight in the Chicago outfit, nephew of Joe Ferriola. They used to call him the Hook because he had a pretty good left hook as a young boxer. I went to his trial at the 26 in California building, where unfortunately he was found guilty by the testimony of Bob Cooley and a couple other lowlifes. On the first trial, they bribed the judge for $10,000 to find Harry not guilty. There's Angelo the Hook LaPetria. They also called him the Bull. He was talked about a lot at the Family Secrets trial. He got his nickname the Hook because he would hang some of his victims on meat hooks and torture them like they did to Action Jackson. One time he shoved the guy by stabbing him in the shoulder with a sharp spike. Frank Calabrese Sr. testified in the Family Secrets trial that he was the only one that had the balls to look this man in the eyes. There you go, World War II Navy hero Sam Bolpendenzo. This guy was a master in explosives. I went to his trial. He was on trial as a defendant in the Mike Sarno trial. They got him on tape bragging about a bomb that they used to blow up a competitor in Berwyn. He was bragging that he put in 2 wicks in a bomb, guaranteed that one of them will go off. He was also on tape talking about Mad Sam DeStefano and Tony Arcardo. Now here's Al Tornabini. They would call him Fafa or the Pizza Man. Nobody ever heard of this man up until the Family Secret trial. Nick Calabrese testified that Joey Aiuppa and the Pizza Man led the making ceremony of him, his brother, Jimmy Marcello, Anthony Zizzo, and several others. But this is the Pizza Man, Al Tornabini, that passed away a few years ago. He flew under the radar. Now here's a stand-up made man of Chicago outfit, Marco D'Amico. This guy got pinched, did a long stint in prison, came out of prison, never snitched, never rolled, went to work immediately for the Zhivago Brothers. Marco the Mover, he would give direct orders to Chrissy Spina and AV on Grand Avenue. Recently, he passed away, but he was very good friends with Petey and John No-Nos DeFranzo. Here's Joe the Builder, Andriacchia, a successful home builder, general contractor. He's also the cousin of Joey Lombardo, and he was boss of the Grand Avenue crew there for a while. And Frank Calabrese testified that after Joey got out of prison, he was supposed to be on the shelf, but instead he was seen driving around with his cousin, Joe the Builder. I went past his house not too long ago that they just sold in River Forest. Now here's Nick Calabrese. They called him Slim. This guy testified against his own brother, Frank Calabrese, and helped put away Jimmy Marcello and several other Chicago outfit guys, including Paulie Sharo the Indian. Nick testified to 14 murders that he participated in. One of them, John Mendel, he slit his throat from ear to ear. Nick also testified to 20 other outfit murders he knew about. This was Slim. Now here's Frank Calabrese. They called him the Breeze, Frankie Breeze, and his son Junior. We all know the story. Junior wore a wire, got his father to talk about crimes that he shouldn't have been talking about. He also testified against his father in court. I'll never forget the look on Frank Calabrese Sr.'s face when Junior was testifying against them, that glare, that evilness in his eyes, that he could just get his hands around his throat. There's probably one of the most intimidating guys I've ever seen in person is Mario the Arm Ranoni. They call him the Arm because he used to really do a great job muscling people. I seen him at the Gus Alex trial. They played tapes of him threatening people, car dealerships, restaurant owners. Years later, I seen him age a lot, being locked up. He got pinched on a gun case, did some time, but now he's out and hopefully behaving himself. Now here you got Jerry Scalise, the monk. They call him the monk because he had grand illusion of becoming a monk one day. They also call him Weatherhand because he had a deformed hand. And on the right, Arthur the Genius. This guy scored super high IQ tests in prison, hence the nickname the Genius. I went to their trial where they were caught. They were going to rob a couple banks, an armored truck. They even had the audacity. They were going to plan and rob Angela Hook's widow's house in Bridgeport. Happy Saturday. Hope everybody's doing well. If you like my Chicago mob trial stories, please hit the like button. share with your friends. And once the weather starts getting a little warmer here in Chicago, we're going to be filming on site, going to locations where mob guys were killed, going to spots where mob guys live and hang out. Stay tuned and have a nice weekend.